Alright, people. I decided to make this video. Mostly because this is from the 700 Club. And this is something that, this video is about a subject that kind of haunts a lot of people, especially like married people, if you're religious. It's the idea that you have to stay together even though you don't really love each other anymore and you don't like the other person because God puts you together in the first place. And these types of people like to force their spouse to be with them because God says so. So today we're going to be examining, before this, little disclaimer, I am not a therapist or certified medical professional. If you're having communicative issues and problems with your spouse or your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever, your significant other, then you need to go to a therapist and work out some of the issues, because a lot of times it's more personal than the other person. It's more of your understanding of things can be way different than the other person's understanding of issues. So basically, if you're having issues and, you're not really sure why, you need to go to, a therapist or, marriage counselor that is not number one, a pastor, religious person, or the Bible or any other religious literature. Because unless they have a PhD or a doctorate in mental issues and counseling and therapy, then they're not qualified to help you, and you should not place your trust in them or give them your money at all. People, especially religious people, and I've seen a lot of pastors do this, where they offer counseling and all kinds of things, even though they have no degree or any sort of certified knowledge whatsoever on helping these people. And sometimes that's usually because, worldly advice is going to bring you to hell. No. Your mental health and your relationship is worth more than some book that's poorly written and advocates for genocide and rape and slavery. So, with that being said, let's go through and figure out what this lady's deal is. Not this lady, but, the courageous wife that saves her marriage through fierce love.
For the children's ministry at her church. A few years ago, she went off to a weekend conference. There, she was able to take a breather from her busy life and do a little soul searching along the way. Then, just one day after she got back from that conference, her husband of nearly 10 years dropped a bomb on her.
In 2013, Shauna Shanks was a month shy of celebrating her 10-year anniversary when her husband calmly asked for a divorce.
Okay, so one thing about relationships, as a person who's been married for several years and has a very healthy relationship with their significant other, communication is key. Having healthy adult conversations and communications based in reality is priceless for having a healthy adult relationship. If it kind of gets to the point, like right in this situation, their communication is obviously bad. They're not good together because it got to that point. So, the video goes on to say that he's been having an affair, so obviously he's ready to move on. And she should respect that decision and his feelings as an adult and not try and force them. But alas, this video wouldn't be advertised as Christian fantasy if, the adult thing was done, so.
Admitted to having an affair. Though her husband was telling her their marriage was over, God was saying something else.
God was tasking me to do the hardest thing I'd ever done, loving my husband.
Okay, so I don't know about you, but if my significant other comes to me and says, I want a divorce, and I've been having an affair, that's pretty cut and dry that you guys should split your ways, because there's, it doesn't just get to that point for no reason. I mean, obviously it was a very dick move for him to go have an affair and then tell her he wants a divorce. That's obviously a huge dick move on his part. But obviously she was apparently oblivious, so she wasn't listening to maybe any indications that he was unhappy with the relationship. Maybe she was unhappy with the relationship, but used God as mayonnaise to just cover up the sins. I don't know. It's just, this isn't adult behavior. This is, people use God in order to, like, shuffle their responsibilities and obligations out of their hands. Oh no, it's in God's hands. I don't have to do shit. Let's move on.
In her book, A Fierce Love, Shauna shares why she's telling the world about his affair.
As if it wasn't strained enough. We're telling the world about how he was a dick. Okay.
What she relied on to restore their marriage.
Ugh.
Shauna Shanks is here with us now. Shauna, welcome to the 700 Club.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Great to have you here. When your husband broke this news to you...
Okay, so, like, I don't know about you, but I kind of feel disgusted about this whole display of going on this TV show, talking about your husband's affair, displaying your relationship, and how it glorifies God. Personally, it nauseates me, and I feel like it definitely violates whatever privacy they've had up until this point. But, she makes a shit ton of money. This person makes a shit ton of money. Her husband is probably still with her because she makes a shit ton of money off this story. So, let's continue. It's disgusting. Honestly.
I mean, you were shocked. This wasn't something you saw coming.
No, it completely took me off guard. We had 3 little kids at the time.
So this better illustrates my point that she wasn't paying attention. Maybe he wasn't paying attention. They weren't putting enough maintenance into the relationship, and which maybe says it was flimsy to begin with. Some people should not get married. Some people should not have kids. And if your relationship is rocky as hell, maybe you shouldn't have kids with that person. Just saying. But now that you do have kids, divorce is, it's kind of traumatic for kids, but, if everyone acts like an adult, and there's lots of communication, and there's lots of love and given, then everything will be fine.
I just figured that our marriage stuff was normal, like everybody had it, where you just kind of go through lows and highs. But I had no idea that he was that unhappy. I just wasn't expecting it at all.
Yeah.
Again, with the didn't know that he was unhappy. This better illustrates the point I was trying to make. You need to pay attention to, the signals your spouse is giving, and not just to, go through it just oblivious as shit. You need to be sensitive to the other person's wants and needs. That doesn't mean that you bend over backwards and give them everything they want, because, you gotta worry about you too. If you're uncomfortable with doing something, then you should communicate that. Just how it goes. But let's let the nauseating people talk.
His attitude was really pretty cut and dried. I mean, it wasn't like he was saying, I'm thinking about this, or I might want to do this. I mean, he pretty much said, I don't love you anymore.
Yeah, and that's not his usual nature. Like, he's usually soft with me, and...
Again, says, I don't love you anymore. All right. Pretty cut and dry there, as the other lady said. And if that's not his usual nature, well, people don't just change the way they communicate or their personalities for nothing. It's usually, if somebody's who's usually, you know, pretty reserved is you know, really out there and trying to communicate to you in a different way that's other than how they normally are, then that's pretty fucking serious. Okay? Obviously there's something serious going on that needs to be discussed in an adult way that's based in reality, like I just said. But okay.
I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know how to react to it because I just had never thought anything like that could happen. But in his mind, he had already made the decision, and I think he just thought it would be...
Okay, then you needed to respect that. You can't force people to be with you because, and then guilt them into being in the relationships. Oh, we have children. Oh, God. Oh, you know, God's gonna look down on us. He put us together for a reason. Obviously, it's not fucking working out, you know? And staying together because you have kids is not the reason you need to... That never works. It never does. Somebody says they're staying together because they have kids. Well, the toxicity between you two and you not wanting to be with the other person is going to affect everyone around you. So you can't be doing that shit and expect everything to be fine. Excuse me.
Easier if he would just kind of rip the Band-Aid off, and you know, he had already mentally checked out of the marriage, so I think he was just...
These are all signs that your relationship is fucking over. These are all signs. You shouldn't force this to happen. It's like going up to somebody who's not into you and trying to make them like you. Like, it's not gonna happen. You're just gonna cause more problems.
What happened then? How did you react? And what about your children?
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's kind of my reaction was beyond the initial heartbreak of losing my husband. You know, as women, we want to fix things, and I automatically start thinking like, okay, like what about this mortgage? What about the kids' school if we split up? And will I miss them if I don't have them on the weekends? You know, all those things start going through my mind.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, it's called alimony. And whoever has the kids the most, usually depending on what states, you know, it works out like to where the relationship between you and your kids, and especially with the money situation, is pretty well balanced. That way that the kids can grow up in a relatively balanced environment, even though their parents are not together. So, like, people have got this shit figured out. You just want to stick your head in your Bible and pretend you know everything.
And so I wasn't sleeping, and I knew that I had to get up in a couple hours with the kids. So I knew that I needed to pull myself together. So I just kind of begged for the Lord. I said, God, please just give me one thing I can focus on so that I can calm my thoughts and get some sleep. And that's when it all started. He answered me that night, and he said to hope and endure.
Yeah. And that was really the turning point.
All right, did some voice in your head actually say to hope and endure? That's probably your voice saying, don't freak the fuck out. Just me. You know, her wanting to get her thoughts together is like a completely normal feeling. But you also, this would be the time to maybe go talk to a therapist. Somebody who is certified and licensed to deal with these kind of issues. You know, they specialize in this kind of thing. Family counseling. You know, how do we get through? Everyone go. Just pile the kids in the car, get your husband in the trunk, whatever. You know, go and ask the therapist, hey, how do we do this in a way that it benefits everyone? You know, how do we do this in an adult, caring way to where our children aren't traumatized and our children are probably properly cared for as well as ourselves? You know, these people are trained and certified on how to do this. I don't understand why, like, you need to buy this chick's book to understand. Yeah, there's just so many better options. You know, your mental health is worth more than relying on this fucking stupid ass system of just horribleness.
For you in what God was asking you to do. I mean, he actually gave you 1 Corinthians 13 as verses you were to look at, and I loved what you said in your book, because I thought that probably would have been my reaction. I know those verses. I've not only read those verses 100 times myself, I've heard them at every wedding, at every... So how did God use such a familiar verse or verses, such a set of familiar verses, to really pierce your heart?
Yeah, I mean, the same as you.
Okay. I know they're like, how did God use this? No. Basically, you're just, concluding by association, which means, hey, these two things I read kind of make sense. Because, I used to do the same thing when I was a Christian, and I was, reading the Bible. I would think it's God's hand, guiding me to these special verses that sort of make sense. And, and I would have to do mental gymnastics to try and put, association. And our human brains are fantastic at recognizing patterns and putting together and trying to create a narrative that makes sense and comforts us. It's usually not what we think it is. It's usually just pattern association. That's literally all it is. So when they say, I read the Bible and God spoke to me, well, no, you read some words and, they sort of made sense to you in an order, and you saw a pattern. That's all that is. You can't do anything with that.
My church girl, so I was like, God, I know that one. Yeah, you must not have known that. Nope. But I already know that one. So, but in this context of my husband asking me for a divorce and him taking me back there, I just kind of became obsessed with those things. Love is patient, love is kind. It doesn't envy, it doesn't boast, it's not rude, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, and it doesn't keep a record of wrongs. So in the
it's this statement in the Bible is kind of half right and half not, Love is patient, but ultimately, how do you feel at the end of the day? A lot of people who know someone loves them, may take advantage of that person. So in these situations, it's not a fix-all, end-all set statement. If you love somebody and they know it, they can take advantage of you if you follow that, sequence of words she just said to the letter of the law. So it's half right and half not. It's kind of how you take it.
Text of, my marriage imploding, the verses that I thought were so easy became the biggest challenge. And 2 weeks after he asked me for the divorce is when I found...
Maybe that's because you need actual medical, therapy for getting through this traumatic situation. Because, as you said, your marriage was imploding. So that's usually when people go and seek help from professionals. That's what they're there for. But okay.
Found out that he was having an affair. So I'd already had 2 weeks worth of what I end up calling in the book a love filter. So if my actions and reactions and even thoughts toward my husband didn't line up with the things in that scripture, and not to be angry, not to keep a record of wrong, not to be jealous, if my thoughts didn't line up to those things, I just really felt challenged by the Lord not to let them pass through. And so I had already...
No, you read a set of, in your mind as rules. And when your very human, very correct emotions of anger and jealousy arrived, you squashed them down. You didn't let, yourself have those feelings. So you just bottled them all up and then wrote a book about it. That is not healthy. You take that out on your kids, you take that out on your husband, you take that out on everyone around you. It doesn't stay just bottled up inside. This is what a fucking therapist would say. Jesus Christ, people.
I already started working in that discipline when I found out he was having the affair. So I was able to react to him way differently than I normally would have. Because it's not, that verse in 1 Corinthians 13 is actually, I don't know if people know this, I didn't know this, it's not our normal human instinct to love that way.
Maybe because it's not your normal human instinct, maybe you should just bottle it up inside. Like I said, just bottle it all up inside, write a book, sell millions of copies, and say, husband, I can write about your affair and make money on it. Go do whatever the fuck you want.
So I guess, yeah, it was the
Without
biggest
God, you
challenge.
aren't getting there from
Right,
there.
and I think
Yeah.
it's only possible through the power, being empowered by the Holy Spirit.
Here's the thing that I think was so, you were so candid about this in your book, was your husband didn't change in that beginning time because you used this as your love filter, but you changed. How did God change you?
I think that, first of all, the love filter just kept me busy because I'm thinking of what I was working on. So instead of becoming obsessed with what he was doing and worried about what he was doing and being heartbroken by what he was doing, I was busy because I was busy filtering, okay, are my thoughts lining up to the scripture? Am I doing...
Okay. I think I've gotten all the information that we can out of this particular woman. I can't stand listening to her just force her family to be together in this way and then bottle up her feelings and then make money off of it, saying this is the godly way to go and you're, not a Christian if you don't follow this way or you let your feelings out. It's disgusting, honestly. And it's just like, why? There's a very clear reason why. She wanted to keep her marriage together and she could also make some money off of it. So, like I said in the beginning, it's gross. Her coming on here, displaying all of this, talking about her husband's affair, and while they're still together, saying, you need to just keep all your feelings inside. And it's just, no. God is not your therapist. Okay? You can be spiritual. You can have religion. Just don't let your religion define who you are. It's supposed to be an add-on it's supposed to be an add-on. It's just an app that helps you get through the day. It's not supposed to define you. And if it says it's supposed to define you, that is a goddamn death cult and get the shit out. Bye, everybody. That's the end of this one.